Technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jack.
And this is a new day with Priscilla and Nyenator. I'm here today with great women of Liberia. First, I'm going to tell us a little bit, remind us as we usually do about a new day. We are working towards a whole new world of social reform. On this program, we discuss gender equality or gender justice in our societies. Our conversations cover sexual gender based violence, identifying root causes, and seeking ways to address that and related issues by harnessing healthy and generally acceptable traditional values, systems, and practices, healthy religious values and practices, as well as practical global values and systems for women and girls' equal rights. We hope that these kind of conversations will contribute to change in mindset and attitude about women and girls' human rights and lead to a shift in our culture of impunity. Hence, a new day on Focus on Liberia. Today, we have with us Miss Adsha Kamara Koluba um, from the Liberian Women Forum. We'll also have joining us, trying to join us, no Miss No Kolu Harris. Welcome to a new day, Asha.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to leave it with you
Thank you.
to introduce yourself properly. So can you go ahead and tell us a little more about yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to join Priscilla on the show today and to share my own experience. I am Aisha Kamara Koluba. I'm a Liberian woman, a proud feminist. I'm from the Liberian Feminist Forum. I'm also part of other networks, including the Women Human Rights Defender Network of Liberia. And as we celebrate International Women's Day throughout the month of March, I am so excited to be part of the conversation. I'm so excited that I've been given opportunity to share my own thoughts around uh, rights of women and girls. So yeah, we are here for about an hour, right? An hour of interactive discussion. Yeah,
Yeah.
also hoping to learn from others.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Asha. So I'm just going to jump right in because there are just a lot. There are just a lot. But like as you rightly said, on the 8th is going to be International Women's Day. I assume worldwide. But recently, far ahead of the international, not really far ahead of the International Women's Day, but a few days, a few weeks ahead of the International Women's Day, the women of Liberia were in Juba, is that how they say Juba, Sudan? So you want to tell us what was going on? Why were Liberian women in full attendance in Sudan recently? It really was interesting to see you. So we would like to know what were you discussing about the state of women in Liberia, or what was it?
So it was an international conference on women's leadership and transformative. Um, so it's the women of South Sudan, as we all know, is one of the newest country in Africa, and they are recovering from war as Liberia, and they had this big international conference where they have women from over 400 women from 15 countries around the world, and we gathered for the 3 days just to share experience, discuss emerging issues, challenges, and then finding a way forward in terms of strengthening women peace and security. At the same time, building networks and alliances to address the issue around women's leadership and participation in political processes. So we from Liberia attended under different umbrellas with different expertise, but it was also just to share our experience in terms of what are the ways that we were able to get peace, maintain peace, and what are some of the things that we are doing now. So we have people from diverse background. We had Lema Bori who also share our own practical experience. We had Abla G. Williams, also a secure women peace and security expert. We had Cyril Konankalo also share your experience. And then No and I were the young women in the room, also sharing our experience from that perspective. So it was really a big conference. It was interactive, it was empowering, and a lot of lesson was learned. We also had a space to share our own experience. So I admire the strength of the women of South students. They are eager, they want to participate in politics, and it was interesting to know that they have also made some gains, though
Oh my God. Yeah.
okay. All right.
Okay, you're back on.
So the women of South Sudan also made some gains in terms of strengthening women peace and security. But then I think they have a lot of opportunity given that they are a new country. They have a lot of opportunities that they can tap into in terms of creating new laws. And then the energy in the room, it was just overwhelming. The energy in the room from the women, there were women who walked long distances just to be part of the conference. And then we also have the older generation, you had the younger generation discussing different issues affecting women. And now we looked at women economic empowerment, we look at issue of climate justice, look at transitional justice, intergenerational dialogue. They also look at the issue of sharing experience around in terms of how women actively participated in bringing peace. And we have people from Sierra Leone also sharing their experience in terms of how they contributed to the peace process in their country. I think it's a good space, and the conference brought about a lot of things. And I was part of the team that developed the outcome document for the conference. And there were a lot of issues that I know the conference is not going to just stop there for that 3 days. There are a lot of discussion in terms of how to we sustain the momentum that is currently ongoing to amplify some of the issues that were discussed. I know the issue about women peace and security was high on the agenda. The issue of economic empowerment, the issue about climate justice. One interesting thing that we also discussed was looking at the women's movement in the digital stage. And this is the theme of the International Women's Day, looking at the digital space, at the same time looking at how it affects women's movement. That was interesting conversation that was held, and I think it's important to continue that conversation given that we have all of these opportunity, but how also it serves as a barrier to the women's movement. So we learn a lot. Also, we're able to share, but I think the women of South Sudan, they have a lot of opportunities that they can tap into. Given there were a lot of people who were willing, some people were willing to come back and work with them further. Some people also say work from far.
Oh my God, that is such so amazing. Yeah, so amazing. Hopefully we get now on to hear from her about the issue on climate justice. But in the meantime, Asha, were you still in the middle of responding? Are you done?
No, I was
I
just
think
winding down. Yes.
okay.
But then it was
All right.
an interesting space, and I know the organizer and the women of South Sudan are now going to stop there. There are plans to further amplify and strengthen the work. I know as a result of the conference, there were other laws that were passed immediately, I think less than a week or two, like that. The Maputo Protocol. There were other laws that were passed immediately after the conference, and the discussion at the conference contributed to that. So that's also a good news that the government is also taking immediate action in terms of women peace and security, but also securing the rights of women and girls in the country.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Asha. So you mentioned about discussion on intergenerational dialogues, and I also learned that the former president Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was part of that conference. So you want to tell us, share with us some of the intergenerational issues that were discussed. You and No representing younger generation or different generation from um Miss Lima Bowie, from all the other big women you name. So what are the intergenerational issues that you were able to identify?
I wasn't part of the breakout section, but the discussion that was on one also recognizing the contribution of the older people, our mothers who started the process, recognizing their efforts, their knowledge, and also the best practices. At the same time, recognizing the younger generation that is on fire, want to make the change, and then how we can bring the both energy together, how we can just have a conversation around passing the torch, but at the same time recognizing the contribution of the older generation. I know the part of the outcome document, there was action points in terms of holding leadership training, holding interactive dialogue with the older generation and the younger generation in terms of bringing the two together. So there are few action points within the outcome document from the conference in terms of working with young women also to be active, but at the same time recognizing how older generation has contributed to the movement and the issue about mentorship program. I know that was one of the things that came up as the result of the discussion. How to how can they establish or strengthen a program or start an initiative that could mentor young girls in terms of how do they take on the tasks now the older generation is kind of fading away. But it was really a space where you see energy from the both generations. So the young people were there, very active, like we need to be heard. At the same time, older women were like, yeah, we are here, and also willing to support. So it was really, yeah, it was really an interesting conversation. I know sometimes it get heated where maybe the younger generation are really like on fire, want to start now, but it went smoothly, and I'm hopeful that the action points from the conference will be implemented, given the start of what we saw like a week after. So the laws that were passed, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability and Optional Protocol, International Convention on the Civil and Political Rights, and the Protocol on the African Charter on the Rights on people's rights and the rights of women. So that is known as the Maputo Protocol, and then the International Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. So there were four laws that were passed less than 2 weeks after the conference.
Oh, wow. That sounds so exciting. That is amazing. 4 laws already passed. And when was the conference? This was last month, right?
Yeah, in the middle of last month.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Hopefully, we, the countries have the, we develop the political will and the muscles to enforce those laws. But it's great. It's great. It's a great feat to recognize that 4 laws were already passed. So yeah, exciting. That means that you're coming together in Sudan recently, started already to you result. Good. Congratulations to you and to all of us, because it is for all of us to make the world better. So yeah, thank you for representing women and girls interest on the continent and by extension in the world at large. So yeah, thank you. uh, um we got joined finally by No Kolu Harris. Thank you, No, for trying, and thank you for coming on. Um, um, yeah, we appreciate your joining us because we value your perspective in this conversation. So you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself, tell us your background a little bit.
Thank you once again. So my name is Noel Kolu Harris. I am a social justice activist. I am a young feminist, a member of the Liberian Feminist Forum, and currently I work with different youth groups, and I also work at Action in Liberia as a youth program officer, where
Okay.
where I lead the youth empowerment, political empowerment hub, global platform Liberia, as well as all the youth programs at Action in Liberia. And also, I'm a member of different national youth groups, as well as movements that are working towards ensuring we secure social justice. That includes climate justice, women's rights, and so forth. Yes, so basically that is what I do. I'm a human rights defender as well as a trained humanitarian.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think you met Aisha already filling us in. We were talking about the conference that you recently attended in South Sudan. Um and so yeah, it sounds like you accomplished a lot few weeks ago. So interestingly, I know this is to an outsider, or sometimes when people want to deflect from the issue, they tend to use that to sensationalize that there is this disconnect between the younger generation and but I don't think that is the case. I think there is just a beautiful dynamic that is unique, and we can harness to strengthen our cause, which is equal human right for women and girls. So yeah, so the younger generation seems to bring in the vitality of we want this, we want consequences. We want accountability in our advocacy, to go along with our advocacy. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I've gathered, at least from studies that I've done and groups that I continue to follow, that I don't want to refer to them as older generation, but the generation before the new generation, they were more into negotiation, you know, negotiation advocacy. And this generation is like winning accountability. Um, there was a case, for instance, with the New York Times talking about when the hashtag Me Too movement came on. And then one of the reporters who was assigned at the White House during Trump time when they started to, when the Me Too started to backfire, and he was one of the lead reporter. And according to this older chief, Washington Chief Bureau, she's an elderly woman. This is this guy dream all his life. He wanted to be at the White House. And now he's living the dream, but then the case came out that, he was part of harassing women. So they were so conflicted. They want to just chastise him in-house. And the younger generation or group of reporters was like, no, he has to go. And the other women are like, yeah, what he did wasn't okay, but we lived through those things in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. That's how men do it. And the younger generation said, yeah, no, we're not allowing it anymore. He needs to go. And there are a lot of so different cases like that show that the younger generation is saying, this is how, thank you for all you've been doing in the past, but things have to change to this extent. So I'm interested. I'm interested in finding out, how did your work out that kind of dynamics? Did that make sense in all the rambling that I went to come to this question about? Yeah. So I'm sure that there was that kind of dynamics with the um former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf group at the conference and people like you. I think you're muted. Somebody wants to go and address this, respond to that. I was asking
Okay.
about
Yes,
intergenerational.
I will
Yeah.
go. Yeah, so are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. So I like the background you gave, giving the example of what happened in the New York Times. But I think this generation, our generation, is really intentional about changing the status quo.
Mhm.
Unlike to some extent there was some level of compromising done with the old generation. Or yes, the old generation make a lot of they did a lot of remarkable things. They set the pace for us. But I mean, our generation is really intentional about that. So going back to the conference, the organizers really did well. I remember I was on one of the panels and we were talking about climate justice, building resilience of women. And then I remember before I start, I asked a very political question because at the moment I had noticed earlier there were a lot of young women there, but most of them were out of the room. So I just wanted to ensure that the hall was balanced in terms of generation. So then I asked the question, can all the young women raise their hand? And then they were like, okay, yes, we're here. So that alone shows that the organizers did a really good job, even though most of the young women was working with the organizing team to ensure that things were in place, they were in the protocols, they were ushering, but also there were young women. Majority of them were also in the room. And that also really gave me hope that indeed the gap of intergeneration that we had years ago is beginning to close gradually. And I think the selection of the panelists were really strategic in a sense where there was mixed people from different backgrounds, people from backgrounds that related to South Sudan backgrounds, and also there were this intergeneration balance among the panelists, which I was really, I was really happy to see. Yes, so we heard from different perspectives, and this was one of the main recommendations that I was able to give, that in all that we're doing, be it women's rights, be it climate justice, whatever it is we're working on, we need to ensure that we balance the generation. So that at the end of the day, the old generation is going away. So in order to sustain what they have started, in order
Yeah.
to make, yes, that we secure the gains that they have made, we need to impact the new generation, and not just impact them. We need to ensure that they are included they're on the front line. They are included at the decision making table. And talking about decision making table, this is one of the gaps I think we have in Liberia currently. We have the issue of gender imbalance in terms of power structure. We have the issue of generation imbalance in terms of age. And I think to some extent we really need, so this generation in Liberia is working towards that. But I think this coming elections, October, is a very big opportunity for us to be able to make some shifts and to be able to change some things around. But yes, I think my generation is very intentional about changing things and ensuring that those changes are sustained.
Thank you. Thank you. No, you couldn't have said it better.
Hello?
Not really to take away from what our great
Hello?
but yeah, are you hearing me? Yeah. Uh So yeah, people before, women in the past have done, they laid a solid foundation. They laid a solid foundation. So not to take away from what they've done, but I agree with the plan for mentorship, mentoring, like Asha mentioned. So it's good that that was discussed, and that is something that women movements are going to be intentional about, because yeah, someone lay the mat or something before you came and sat on it. I try to stay away from the word compromise. So when I say, women of old, they used to like negotiate with the patriarchy, but these ones are like, no, the patriarchy has to go. And if you insist on it staying, you're going to be called out for that. So but we're going to talk to a few persons that were not able to join us today. I got late message from one of the the women from the generation before us to be a part of this conversation, but couldn't make it. So hopefully next time we will have her to give their perspective. But yeah, thank you for that rich perspective. I wanted to check with Asha. She mentioned about the digital barriers that women face. Somebody wants to speak on that. What were some of the barriers that you identify, and what did you discuss ways to address those?
Yes, so the digital space has its own advantage and disadvantage. It has to some extent strengthened the movement across the world, especially during COVID, where we, for example, could meet online and have different discussions. So there are some ways it has improved the movement and interaction across countries and regions. However, there are still challenges. For example, in Liberia, we still have issues with, like for example, no was coming on today. We had a lot of challenges for her to come online.
Okay.
So the issue having a stable internet connectivity, and then we also experience this online bullying or cyber. So in terms of, I know we were all excited when we had a different social media apps, and we all rushed to sign up for them. But then there are also disadvantages. We did not take time to really say which one is safe, which one is not safe. So we come back to the issue about access to even basic social services. When we say there are issues around network areas, there is no power to charge my phone. I don't have access to the different spaces. For like one example, Zoom, for you to have a Zoom account, you need a credit card. So for country like Liberia that they don't issue credit card, it's debit card, meaning a young woman, if I have an organization, I can't, it will be difficult for me to even have a paid Zoom account. And all of those challenges is also, then we have the issue about, I will pick this from Abla Williams, that she always say born before computer. So that's a whole different generation there. So you want to share documents, you are able to navigate from your side. But there's another generation also too that have challenge in terms of accessing these different social media apps. In terms of having a whole law around data protection, I know you before we came on, we're having a conversation about even the different, so even play songs, you have to check the copyright of this. So there are a lot of challenges that we still have, especially in developing world in terms of having access to these spaces. They are there, they are exciting, they help to resolve issues around communication, but then we also have the issue of access. Who is accessing? Is it available? Is it affordable as well? In terms of, do I have money to continue to keep my data on? In Liberia, when we have our data, sometimes you have to turn it off to save, sometimes turn it back on. People may not have information on a different VPN services to use to have safe sites. And then one time, someone asked me, "You sign no when you sign up for the different sites, they say sign up for terms and conditions." And then they asked me, "Have you ever read just the first line of the terms and conditions?" And then I smiled. So we all run towards it, but again, it's exciting side of it. However, there are still challenges, and sometimes it's not too favorable for people in developing countries like Liberia and South Sudan. So it has its own good side. I know someone was talking about issue even around research, even though sometimes information is here there, but it has its own good side. It has strengthened work, but there are challenges that we still face, especially around online bullying. We run for these different exciting spaces, but sometimes we come back at us. And violence against women online, it has the same effect as violence against women offline. So, I mean, it is okay, but looking at in terms of who is accessing, who can afford, where is it available? We still, I know someone share an experience where they have to do pre-recorded messages. So if you want to go, let's say in part of Bone County that does not have internet coverage, how do you take messages there? Someone spoke of carrying pre-recorded messages and sharing it with communities with solar radios so that you can have access to some of this information. So there are different ways, and then someone spoke about getting a smart TV, taking it to where we need have internet access, and then do a show like this for them to see, ask questions. I know Cyril Gallo mentioned that is happening in Liberia with the program on access to information, and they do have a regular call-in show where community will interact directly with DJ bearers for Monrovia. So yeah, there are some good sides, but we still have some of the challenges. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Um, we're going 25. I mean, more than half an hour. We said we wanted to stick to 30, I mean an hour, because I shall already announce it. So we want to work within that time. So I wanted to take up read comments, or if someone have question, but before I go to it, did you want to add something to what Asha just said? No. No, did you want
Well,
to say something?
I think Asha just summarized everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Asha just summarized everything, talking about the different challenges we're faced with, and also looking at the theme for this year for International Women's Day that has to do with using technology for gender equality. That means a whole lot. And if our all Liberia must contribute towards that, we have to be realistic. We have to really work towards ensuring that access to internet, access to the different technology that are essential for women and girls in Liberia are available. Yeah, so I think Asha talked more about the challenges and all of those things that we experience coming down to people in the rural areas, the internet challenge. I know for me, one example, I'm in Magibi currently. So I was using we have three GSM company in the entire country, imagine. So if all three has problem, that they were going to be shut off from the internet.
The rest of the
That's
world.
part. Yes. So initially I had one GSM company, and then I was facing challenge. I had to then change to another. So for those women or those young girls that are in the different rural counties that do not have access to three different GSM company, imagine how much disadvantaged they are.
Yeah.
Internet. Yeah, but I think Asha really talked about the different challenges and how we can really contribute towards improving that.
Okay. Um, all right, let me read. Someone says, thank you. No. I'm going to read a few comments, then we'll come back to our conversation. Washing. Hello, Aisha, Glenda. She say, hello, ladies. Glenda, Jen, Juniors. Hello, Glenda. Um, Someone says, greetings from Boston, ladies. Glenda says, the sacrifices is huge. Thanks for all you do. So, y'all, thank you. Y'all, thank you. Y'all, thank you. I join her to say thanks to y'all for all you do for country and for the world. Um, all right. So, International Women's Day is today is the 5th, and it's supposed to be on Wednesday. And we learned that. Thank you, ma. We learned that Liberia decided to celebrate it on this weekend because Wednesday is Decoration Day. Um, I'm sorry, y'all are not the one to speak for policy makers, but I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe you have an idea that I don't. We're celebrating International Women's Day on the weekend. I was wondering, are we celebrating that they're still taking little girls, kidnapping little girls, and not investigating properly? No update on whether the lady who did the kidnap and the forceful circumcision has been apprehended. Um, what again? A lot of they said more than 30 schoolgirls, going girls within the same county in Grand Bassa were recently graduated out of the Sunday Society, even though there is a moratorium. The former chief justice is crying for the loss of her daughter, um, you know, a fate that was meant for her. And there are a lot that don't make the news because they're ordinary people. And the women of Liberia continue to cry, we're unprotected and we're unprotected. With just all of these things happening in our society, with the plight of the Liberian girl and Liberian woman. What are we celebrating? And again, I'm just throwing it out there. I wish we had the government spokesperson or policy maker. We try to get to them, and you just don't get a hold of people. We've been promised, and the show will come and talk. And so maybe you are in the corridor of some of these conversations. What is going on? What are we celebrating?
So International Women's Day is so we use International Women's Day for so many things, and it is a time to celebrate the gains we've made over the
Now you want to jump in? It looks like Asha is frozen.
Celebrate
Her
ourselves
internet.
as women. And
Oh,
it's also
yeah. Her internet is freezing. Actually, now you know the whole train of thought. You know what she was trying to express, right? International
Um,
Women's Day. We
it,
celebrate gains, and then we get reminded of our challenges or things we're dealing with.
yeah. So just to come into that, like Asha was saying, International Women's Day has always been a time where we celebrate the gains we've made. We celebrate those that are on the front line, the grassroots women, those that are making things happen, those women that are changing the narratives, those women that are sacrificing every day, their everyday life to ensure that women and girls are protected, to ensure that our rights are upheld. Yes, but this is the intention of International Women's Day, to be able to say, to some extent, when we look back, we can see that we have come afar, we have achieved something together. But taking into consideration the position or the situation of women in Liberia, there there has been a very of recent there has been again an increase of different violence against women. And looking at the crucial year that we're in, um, general elections, presidential and general elections year, it is a really it for me. I think this International Women's Day really should have been a time to come together as women, to really push the case, to push the aspect of security. Currently in Liberia, like you say, I'm now a policymaker, I'm an activist, I'm a citizen of Liberia. I live in Liberia every day. I experience the different situations we are experiencing. Security is still a very crucial thing in our
Sure.
country.
I
Yes,
agree.
security. Yes, it's a very we're facing a big challenge in terms of security. So, and looking at the imbalance again in gender, obviously you know that women and girls are the most vulnerable. Looking at the different inequalities that we're experiencing. So for me, I think that this year should have been a year to really have duty barriers, to have them do something around security. Looking at even Asha was talking about technology, how now people are using the internet to violate women, right? What are those different policies that we've been putting together in terms of security, technology wise, right? Security for women and girls. What are those different laws that we think that we need to amend to ensure that the internet is also covered in it? We have people nowadays looking at the political season now. You might see there are a lot of men who will also come up going against women, and will come up with different sex videos and nude pictures of women in order to pull women down, especially those that are participating in elections. What are those different things we're crafting around to ensure that those that are planning to do these things would definitely face the consequences, right? And looking at how impunity has been the order of the day is really sad. It's really sad in Liberia. So for me, I felt like this year's International Women Day, there was nothing really for us to um despite we have made some gains. I'm not going to disagree with that. We have made some gains, but looking at how there are a very high population of women that are still so much vulnerable. To some extent, all of us are vulnerable, but there are other women who are more vulnerable than others, right? So there was this whole campaign that emerged looking at the different cases that say none of us is safe until all of us is safe. So in
Mhm.
as much as there's some gains around policies, around different things in Liberia, but yet and still there are women that are still highly unprotected. And until all of us are protected, none of us is safe. So I think this should have been a very critical and strategic time where we really have duty barriers to do something about security, women's security, and not just all dancing and singing all the praises. To some extent, we have danced over the years. We agree we have made some impact, right? But looking at the current situation we are faced with, I think the day would have been celebrated in a more memorable way if we are all really would have prioritized security, taking into consideration the team, looking at technology security for women and all of that. Yeah, but for me, that's my view. I think we would have done more if would have been strategic in the way how we went about the whole International Day celebration.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. No, I'm sorry. You want to complete your train of thoughts, Asha? I wanted you to go first because I know no is from that generation where they were not, they go. Let's get this done, and kind of generation. But we can still harness our thoughts and ideas and always track our balance. So go ahead and complete your thoughts, Asha.
Okay, so I was trying to say that International Women's Day, we do it in a different way depending on the prevailing situation, depending on the team, depending on the location. So we celebrate ourselves, we celebrate games, but we also use the space to highlight challenges. So we call duty bearers. I'll call their attention to, yes, we know we have all of this structure in place. We have good laws in Liberia, yet the implementation is a challenge, the enforcement is a challenge. So we also use it to say we agree that, yeah, we have a rape law, we have an inheritance law. However, we still have even police stations that don't have the logistics to even investigate a case. They don't even have stationery to document the case. So we still have a long way to go, even though we are celebrating, but we still have a long way to go. So in terms of if I will like say plan an International Women's Day program, given the current situation, we will look at different from different angles. I will also look at it from a point of we need strong system and policy in place to ensure that women, girls, and other vulnerable groups are protected. We need this. For example, at a police station in River says there's one women and children protection officer in a very big location with no not even motorbike. So how can we ensure justice for the women? So I will do it in a way where yes, we have a time to talk about the kings, but I will be deliberate about calling the government attention. I agree of late the ban FGM or how sustainable that is. Do we have the right mechanism in place to even monitor what we say we bind? Do we because the first thing if you bind it, meaning Ministry of Internal Affairs should stop issuing license to people who are practice.
Yeah,
But if they
yeah,
are still issuing a license, then it's not bind.
no,
And the way in which it went, for me as a young feminist and a women's rights activist, I have a lot of questions around that. But again, we come back to strong political will from the state to ensure that women and girls are protected. We keep reminding them. And one thing that we've learned over the period, we have to be deliberate. We have to be intentional. At the same time, we need to be unapologetic for the way in which we engage. We will engage constructively, but at some time, we have to be a little bit hard to push. Say these are things that are happening. Can we pay attention to it? So if we're looking at a team, General Ministry could start looking at what is the data available in terms of number of women who even have access to digital space. What does it mean for Liberia? Do we have access? can a young woman or can a woman even afford to be on the space? These are the things we'll be looking at to say across Liberia, we realize that XYZ number of women don't even have access or have access. So if there's available data, can be shown to us in terms of, and there were other people that I learned. I was at the program. I learned that they honor some people at the celebration. Yes, it's also good to honor, but at the same time, we the government need to be the state need to be reminded that they are responsible. They are the main duty bearers to ensure women and girls are protected. And from if I would suggest to gender ministry in terms of organizing International Women's Day, because it is a big day. Yesterday there was a little bit of there were a lot of women that came in, like over 400 women from different parts of the country, different parts of Monrovia, came to celebrate. But in terms of the way it was organized, what sort of information is given to the women, those who can read and write, those who can read and write, I feel there's a missed opportunity. The happenings were inside. Again, if we're talking about digital space, they could have even streamed live this program in a way where people for other part, if I do a thing, I can see from online. I can, access. So there were in people on the ground that could I even listen or witness what was happening inside because the place was packed. Yes, so International Women's Day, we celebrate, but at the same time, we call the government attention to the challenges that are still there.
Yeah, yeah. It's a time to reflect. It's a time to take account. Uh, what did we get right? What did we not? Why are we not getting? And you know, it's just difficult to say that we're doing good if there's no data. Now mention that. And the last time Seattle was on here, she mentioned the same and frustrated about the same thing. No data. So would it be wrong for us to conclude that with what we hear, we should not rely on, but mostly it's what we hear out there on social media or public opinion pool, if that's something to go by. Then it sounds like we not making gain, that we're having more trouble than we're making gains. So should we really be celebrating? Because if we're crying loud more than what we have to dance about. So hopefully, every time we'll keep hoping and hoping and say hopefully, because the last time we said we'll have, I mean, the assistant general minister promised to come on was some other program, then some other women to do. And went ahead and sent me the speech. Like, do you want me to read a speech for you? Um, come explain to us what's going on, and so but we can just always continue to talk about these things. You know, hopefully we get to a new day. Let me read a few comments on ladies. Someone says, Sir Francis Tamba say, I suggest that this advocacy for women equality should start in various Liberian church. Pastors need to start speaking against social injustices towards women and young girls. Majority of church members in Liberia are women and are they are background of these churches. Thank you, Sir Francis Tamba. Thank you. Um, yeah, I think he repeated it. Or I suggest that advocacy for women should start in a church. Our mothers in those various churches need to stand up and tell their pastors to start speaking against social injustice towards women and young girls in Liberia. I think he talking to you are a very brilliant young woman. Keep up this fight. The unborn generation will need this. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So we didn't cover our questions, the one that has I put aside, but we can always continue these kind of conversations. We can always continue this kind of conversation. So as we wind down, let me quickly just ask us, uh, what will be three key issues, priority areas, if SAR has identified an area of intervention? And as he said, he's not calling on you because one person cannot do this. This is calling on different sector of the society. So our mothers who are in church or the church leaders, you please play this part. We'll play the other part. But the both of you at your organizations, what are the three key priority issues that going forward, as you have made your stance clear on the celebration of the International Women's Day. So we enter into a new phase. What are the key priority issues that you suggest we tackle or that you're going to be working on? So one of you can go first. Maybe I should paraphrase it. What will you prioritize as the three key issues affect? Sorry. And then reflect on the strategies to make meaningful and sustainable improvement in women condition and position.
I think for me, I will look at it from three key points. And the first one would be empowerment of women. And
That's a strategy. Okay,
empowering
that's a
women, yeah, empowering women not to maybe give them cash, but to ensure that one, they're even aware of rights violation. So empowerment will be ensuring that they are aware of the
area.
different protection laws that are there, giving them, ensuring that we may have voice, they have agency and a leadership. Um, so ensuring that they are empowered to even identify, report a particular case, empowering them to ensure that they also, the issue of economic empowerment, yeah, is important to look at. Because, for example, if a woman is being beaten by her husband, if she's not economically empowered, she cannot report that case because it's the same person who is responsible to give you, uh, like in Liberia, we say full money.
Yeah.
It's made responsible for the home, maybe for
Or
the
school
family,
fees.
and she's unable, yes, and she's unable to report that case because of that reason. So we'll look at it from empowerment from different angles, but mainly to ensure that they are aware of their rights,
Right.
they are given voice, look at the women agency, also the leadership, to participate in the different processes at community level, at county, and maybe meaningfully participate in different governance spaces. Also, I know there is strength in solidarity. So empowering women, but also ensuring that is strong collaboration. So linking them with the different networks, linking them with a different service provider, but also ensuring that they come together and discuss issues that affect them. So they could be from different locations, but strengthening solidarity with women groups and all like-minded organizations. That could be a second part that could also ensure that women are empowered or changing their positions and conditions. Because if she's empowered, she's no longer going to accept. She will reject all forms of violence and abuses. At the same time, the issue about advocacy and advocacy and policy campaigns, it could be even at the household level, it could be at the community level, but how women are empowered to lead local level or even national level advocacy different campaigns. And one way that we could do it is to discuss the issue about unequal power relation. That is the root cause of some of these issues. So we'll look at the issue of a power imbalance. And discussing power imbalance, it has to take time, that long-term investment, because if you want to look at the structural causes of violence against women and girls, it takes time, and you need to unpack the issue about power. So looking at it from a different perspective, from and seeing how power play and manifest in different ways. So having those kind of conversations, like somebody is saying at the church level, it's a whole conversation around power dynamics. So who determine who sits on synod bench, who determine who when a lady who is in the choir gets pregnant, she gets on senior bench. But most often you will see it's a choir director who is a male, but who gets on the senior bench, who decide all of those things is also power dynamics. How do we have those conversations at all levels to ensure that we address the root causes, not just bringing empowerment program. And one thing also to get women involved at the beginning or at all stages of all of these processes, coming from a point like nothing for us without us. Um, but I will take it as empowerment, solidarity, and campaign. So we strengthen women power within them. We strengthen our power to do, and then there's strength in solidarity. We have seen it. Though it doesn't matter the number, but we come together and we get angry about a particular thing, advocate against it. It has strength, but we need laws, we need policies, we need structures, and we need system. So we need to do the advocacy to challenge on equal power relation.
All right. Thank you. You raised really great points, and I appreciate that. And part of what you mentioned is what we're trying to do on a new day when you say we need to unpack. Unpacking involves, this kind of conversation so that we can be able to examine the way we see things, why in a church, why is there so much violence against women, especially in Christendom? I mean, you see all report on Christian women saying, talking about solidarity, there are just these different groups and communities that women are finding themselves these spaces, and some of them that I'm a part of. That you hear women saying, I'm divorced. I want an unbeliever, or the next person. I don't want a Christian man because the church teaches men that he's the head of a full-grown human being, me, and then if I try to exercise my self autonomy, he becomes violence. So there's no way to divorce violence against women from away from the kind of socialization and entrenched religious conditioning that says that I have no voice when it comes to an adult relationship with a guy. So yeah, unpacking involves a lot, and it takes time, and over time we'll say we're having these conversations hoping that there will be a shift in our mindset. And so yeah, I agree with you totally. I agree with you totally. No, what are three key areas you can identify uh, along with strategies? So Aisha named solidarity campaign, and what was the third one, Aisha?
Empowerment for women.
Empowerment solidarity campaign. What are yours? And feel free to explain them and then sum them all in 3 words.
Okay, thank you so much. So, for me, I think, like Aksha said, the empowerment comes first, empowerment and the development of women and girls. And that includes a whole lot, right? Because if we're talking about empowerment and development, we're talking about the issue of equality, we're talking about the issue of equity. I know most times we focus on the equality part. Oh, yes, women can now run for office, women can now, women now have access to these areas. But at the end of the day, we know that patriarchy has been so much embedded in our society to the extent where people um, have this notion that men way better. So now, how do we build up the women to be on path with the men? We know that men were the ones that were educated way back, and women had to sit at home. So there is still this education gap that needs to be closed. So
Yeah.
yes, that includes equity too. So we need to ensure that women have access to quality education, and even those women that maybe did not go to school, in terms of empowerment, how do we ensure those women that are in the rural areas into agriculture? How do we ensure we have land rights secure for them, right? How do we ensure that their agricultural activities, they are benefiting from it in a sense where we have agricultural laws that covers them, right? That we have maybe the government of agriculture contributing towards the work they're doing. Because if you also look at how much agriculture is contributing towards our economy, looking at about 31% based on World Bank's statistics towards our economy comes from agricultural activities. And looking at the people that are in the sector, the women and the young people, that shows that um, the how essential women are to the society. So that means that if at all we must be able to grow, maybe in our secure, have food security or grow in our economy, we must be able to contribute towards um, women's agricultural activities. So that also is part of the whole empowerment and development part. And also land, and, rights that protect them. That will not say, oh, the woman, and when you and your husband marry, you buy your land. That means I know we have the land rights. We sure they protect women, but how are we ensuring that the implementation of that right is really, is really pushed for to the fullest. So yeah, development and empowerment is a really broad thing that includes a lot of different areas. If at all, we must push towards gender equality. And another thing I would say is feminist leadership. I know most times in Liberia we just say, "Oh, I'm a feminist," or "feminists are only women." We really do not take time to really understand what it means. It might be feminist, the name, which emerged from maybe female or the feminine characteristics or our female characteristics, but looking at what it entails, looking at the issue of shifting power is a very big aspect I think we need to look at. Most times in Liberia, when you look at every sector, looking at the judiciary branch, looking at the legislative branch, looking at the executive branch, we still have m- more male in power as compared to females. So that means the gap, if at all we must close it, we must ensure that we shift power also to women and young people to be able to come in these spaces, right? We cannot have all of our different sectors and expect women to be able to come in and lead when we know that most times women are not equipped to lead in these spaces.
Oh, she's getting her last word in. Ah, internet. We have to go. She's giving her final word.
But let me
Such
just
a brilliant. Okay, go ahead. A
so
brilliant
just
young.
as she mentioned, the issue of shifting power is critical, and using intersectional feminist analysis in feminist leadership is important in terms of shifting power. So if you look at a court structure in, let's say, Grange, you will see in terms of leadership, you have like 95% are male, and the 5% will be even people in lower positions. So this is sometimes my argument about male involvement, to say yes, we are even involving the male, because technically if you train law enforcement officers or you train or court officials, technically you are training male, because most of them are people who play critical role are already male in their participating. So we don't need that extra budget line or that extra attention to say we including male, because technically they are already involved. If you are training traditional leaders, technically you are also training male because majority are male. But I
And
think
by
in terms
default,
of,
our
yes,
default humanity is maleness.
yes,
Yeah. So that's why when they argue, I get that. Why you only talking about women? Why you not talking about men, right? You want to say we're talking about equity. Okay, you have to balance something before you start advocating for the both of them. But we're talking
yes,
about there is a gap. You don't want to acknowledge that. And I'm advocating so that we close that gap. You say no, let the gap stay like that, but advocate. What sense does that make? But
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I think in terms of really, so if we do unpack power, it's easier to see where it manifests and how we can challenge it to ensure that we shift power, even with shifting power among women leaders. We speak about intergenerational can where to where when we're shifting power, shifting from older generation into younger generation. So using intersectional feminist approach is also a deliberate action to ensure that um, okay, we agree there are women and girls, but there are categories of women and girls as well at different levels. So there are women and girls who live in the rural area, there are women and girls who live in the urban area, there are women and girls who live in low income communities. There are women, so there are different categories. So how do we shift power to ensure that we women? So if we want to change position of women in, in their condition, we need to look at the issue of power, unpack it, and also be intentional. Be intentional, be deliberate. Because if you really want that change to happen, you have to take like strong actions. And we are no issue in the issue for employment. If you want to ensure that you increase women participation maybe in a particular space, you also have to be deliberate, consider the different barriers that women have, even starting with education, even starting with unpaid care work. So how do we consider all of those things about women? So we have to really be deliberate, have programs that will be direct, like no say the equity aspect. How can we ensure that we move all of the barriers to ensure that a woman have access to healthcare, we will have access to basic social services. So when even the issue of education, health, justice, how we can ensure that all of those things are in place and she's able to access without any barrier.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to you and note so much. Someone say greetings, Sister Call. Oh, she's saying greetings to Sister Call. There are more young women graduating for the various universities. This is Tama. Um, for the various universities, colleges, and trade schools in Liberia than young men. These young women just need to mobilize with the support from these young men to tell those old school men to get the help. Okay. Sorry. uh, um, so this person is saying greetings to all of you. But yeah, thank you, Aksha, for taking your Sunday. You and no, yeah, thank you for telling us about the great conference that you had recently in South Sudan. Um, the coming together of women to discuss how we can make our world better. Really, really, hopefully, yeah, I'm excited that four laws were recently passed. We all can identify that the people that are in authority and in power are men. So hopefully there is a way for implementation of these laws, and there is a political will for them. So yeah, this is a new day to our audience. I want to end by saying our guests identify a lot of different issues, and that's why our new day is saying, let's come and talk and start thinking, oh, I never thought of it like this. Why are things this way? So that we can start questioning why are certain structures the way they are. They talk about uh, um I shall talk about unpacking power dynamics. There's a lot of way it plays out. You in a church, we've seen cases where then the pastor wife was beating this little girl. Why? She said the little girl made the choir director to for okay, the choir director is a full grown man. Who has the power in this setup? Yeah, you know, uh, um, and and we have our homes, and the same cases play out. uh Beating a little girl. Why? Because she I took care of her from small time, then she went and started sleeping with my husband. Okay, this is predatory. Your husband was preying on this little girl. How come she's the one is the devil? Yeah. And recently, I'm in this like I said, different women online groups, and we were discussing something like that just yesterday. And this lady is complaining about taking care of this girl from 14. When she turned 16, she taught her to drive and used to buy clothes for her, take her. I mean, just took care of her, only later to find out that the girl was sleeping with her husband. And another woman said the same thing to her. Okay, that sounds predatory, like your husband was preying on a little girl. So then we'll start thinking, why have we been socialized to excuse men and you know focus on fighting ourselves, and just so yeah, those dynamics are there for us to unpack, for us to visit, for us to critique, for us to rethink, for us to reimagine. uh, they're just a lot. They're just a lot. But like you said, it's going to take time to unpack issues, and hence on new day, we're hoping that we will live to see it as we continue to have this kind of conversations. So thank you. Thanks to you for making your time, making a time to be with us today, and thanks to the audience. And so I totally agree with you on a case of the church. Believe me, there are pastors that some of us been trying to call on. We try not to. I don't mean to call him out, but we've been trying to get the leader of the council of churches on here, because we know domestic violence is really nurtured on a religion. So what are the messages from the churches, from the pulpit, besides the submit, when you're giving men license to be beating on women to see themselves as gods? What how can we repackage, reframe our messages from the pulpit? We've been trying to work with the council of churches to get it on, and the interfaith council, because also our other cousins religion, Islam, is the same issue. So we can give up. We just continue to work on these things. Thank you for staying with us all this time, sir, and call, and everybody else with us and Glenda. So I will message Warning. No, we lost her, but thank you so much, Asha. It was nice to have you on. Um,
Thank you for the
sure,
opportunity.
sure,
Hello?
sure. Yeah. Okay, folks. We'll see you next Sunday. We have another really powerful woman on. Come, let's talk about Liberian women issue. Saying thanks to you, ladies. Yeah, join us next Sunday, same time. As we continue to re-engage our thinking structures in place, as we continue to question them. What are certain things the way they are, and hopefully we usher in a new day for the next generation. Goodbye for now from my end. Bye, Asha.
Thank you.
We are Labira. Labira is our home. Labira people. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá everyone. Labira. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá everyone. Liberia.